I know I'm not supposed to be saying all this, but anyway, I am saying all this. And we can edit that out.
Clap.
My name is Sara Martin.
My name is Susan Reynolds.
So I'm Jennifer Horne.
I'm Guy Hubbs.
I'm Rebecca Todd Mender.
My name is Caroline, and we are Alabama Heritage Magazine.
You know, I think every editor at Alabama Heritage just brought their own passions into it.
This magazine has changed so much over the decades.
And our content switches up frequently enough that it never gets boring.
And it tells stories that don't get told anywhere else.
Alabama gets overlooked in many ways in this country, and there are an enormous number of small things going on in Alabama that the state justly should be quite proud of hosting. And I would put Alabama Heritage high on that list.
Alabama Heritage is unique. It was the creation of Suzanne Wolfe, her brainchild, and she made it into this institution.
It was, how shall I put it, rolling chaos.
There was this confusion, I think, at first about whether this was going to be a competitor to the Alabama Review.
At the time, Alabama had only one other source of written material on Alabama's past. Bill Bernard, who was chair of the history department at that time, believed that the state needed something to appeal to a broader slice.
Alabama Heritage is about telling stories, and so we have a very different approach. We had a different audience.
Let me read you something Suzanne wrote in the first edition. She begins with, "It is appropriate to begin the publication of Alabama Heritage with a few words, etc. Through the pages of Alabama Heritage, we'll examine aspects of Alabama history that have been forgotten or ignored, studying small events that capture the essence of larger ones. We'll meet artists and scientists, preachers and politicians, liberals and conservatives, scoundrels and saints, all of whom helped shape the character of this state. Although we may not like everything we find along the way, the journey should prove stimulating and provocative. It should also be a great deal of fun." I can't imagine it being said any better than that.
When Suzanne and Sara were struggling to keep the magazine alive, it was a pretty tense period.
In the late and mid-90s, the university's budget was cut legislatively. They decided that Alabama Heritage was an easy target and easy to get rid of.
And so Suzanne and Sara worked very hard to build a team of advocates, basically, for the magazine.
But to actually hear the words, "We're not going to be able to fund the magazine anymore," was a big blow.
It meant a lot to people around the state, but the administration at the time did not want to keep it as a part of the university.
So as time went on, there were articles in the Southeast about the potential folding of Alabama Heritage, and people started to call on the phone and say, "This can't happen." Well, as the number of people grew, we saw that we had some potential here for some help financially. Let our readers who love the magazine help. We started a foundation that would help secure its future, and the subscribers, when they would call, "What can we do to help?" This was what you could do to help. And that kind of grew into mailings and various contacts with our subscribers, and told them how they could contribute to this endowment, and they did. And they still do to this day contribute. 30 years later, they still contribute to Friends of Alabama Heritage. I think that's a real testament.
Hiring Rebecca Mender was one of the things I'm deeply proud of. She is a dynamo. My husband and I call her Little Taz, the little Tasmanian devil who never stops spinning and just picks things up along the way. If there are people who can't do their job, she somehow ends up, teaching them how or doing it to help them. That's my executive pen. And I knew I could leave without any fear that it was going to be fine, that it was going to be strong. And that's largely because Rebecca.
I'm Rebecca Todd Bender, and I'm the director of Alabama Heritage Magazine, and I've been with the magazine since 2012. When I first started with the magazine, we basically had 3 goals. The first one was pretty simple. Let's increase our digital presence on social media. We had a Facebook page that had maybe 150 followers. I think we've more than doubled and increased that in the first year. The second thing was to redesign the website. Website had not been touched in a minute, and so it definitely needed to have some improvements. And then the third goal was to digitize the magazine. After being with the magazine for so many years, I had seen how the magazine evolved, but I knew that there were different areas that we were missing. And one of that was the younger audience. And I just felt like all the digital efforts that we had already made, we needed to increase those. And one of the ways we did that was starting a podcast. And the podcast has been so successful. And we've got a lot of people who are listening to us who maybe never even heard of the magazine. And recently we had somebody just, they subscribed to the magazine and said, it's because I heard your podcast. And it just makes you feel really good because now you're reaching new audiences, younger audiences, and that's what's going to help to sustain this magazine. We haven't talked a lot about the team, but it's 4 women. And having a woman-run business in the first place is pretty phenomenal. But we're all from different generations as well. So we have someone who you classify as a boomer, someone who's Gen X, someone who's a millennial. We all seem to work really well together. And a lot of people find that unusual when you have a multi-generational staff. But I love this team, and I love how we're able to see the same vision and set our goals so that we can work toward those. And then we accomplish the goals. And besides accomplishing the goals, we actually win awards for them. So that's pretty awesome too. So a multi-generational, all-female team, award winning. That is Alabama Heritage.
So when I began working at Alabama Heritage in 2008, I was hired as a graduate student worker. Shortly after that, probably within a year or 2, I became an assistant editor. And then I became more of a managing editor after that, till eventually I became the editor. It's really exciting to be the editor of Alabama Heritage Magazine because I learn something new every day in my job, and our content switches up frequently enough that it never gets boring. I really enjoy working with all of the authors across the state, so many of whom I now call my friends, and it's just an exciting position to be in. One story that was really interesting and had a very fascinating origin story was our cover story about the Kate Duncan DAR school. That originally started out as a social media post that basically went viral for us. And the best part about that story is that it still has a life of its own. So for example, after we published it, there were people who called into the magazine afterwards, saying, hey, I know that person on the cover, or that was my teacher on the cover. It's such a great community story. And I think that that's something that we really need to emphasize when it comes to history, is that all of this is a community effort. We all have stories to tell. We all have bits of history that need to be added to the collective memory and the collective storytelling. So definitely record everything that you can.
In your opinion, what is the magazine's impact on our state's history?
That's an interesting question that, again, I don't want to go on forever about.
I think Alabama Heritage plays a really important role in documenting and telling the story of our state's history.
And it tells them elegantly and with visual beauty.
I think every reader finds something different in the magazine.
And we try at the magazine to tell all the history, whether it's the good, the bad, the confusing, the scary, whatever it may be. We're going to try and tell all the stories that make a difference. So that way we know what our past was like, so that way we can also be prepared for our future.
To better understand where our state came from and the people that lived here before us, I think helps us understand who we are.
So I encourage the people of Alabama as they look at a magazine like this to recognize what goes in and how important it is that we be willing to sometimes hear what's not comfortable, the good, the bad, the ugly, to know how we got to where we are and to feel pride, but also a sense of humility that it wasn't always pretty, but we've done great things with what our ancestors laid out for us.
The magazine is turning 40 this year, and we love to joke that it's older than me. You know, we are the only publication in the state that's like us. Hell, we're the only publication like us in the country. Our stories live no matter where we are. So for me, Alabama history matters because it is a part of us. Whether you're walking down the street, reading a book, that's part of our history, and it's important to document that. And I want us to show off our history because it does matter. I want to see us continue to be the quality content that people have known and loved, but also will find. Now, in this stack over here are letters. This is just a copy of that. Are letters of support from a variety of people, from just subscribers to politicians to chancellors like you had talked about. UAB got involved. These are all the records that came from Save Alabama Heritage File.
Wow, and that's Suzanne's writing.
Hey, we keep things, you know.
Cool.
So it's just incredible the amount of stories and things that came back from this. You know, somewhere in here, Stan.
I remember when he called.
And then those are just photos of the Kilgore house, and then, or not photos of Kilgore. Those are from the people traveling. Okay. I'm good if you're good.
I'm good.
We're good.
I have nothing else to say.